we are going to begin with today's class. As you all know that it is going to be almost a 6-day course where we are going to skim through all of the main chapters which are there, or all of the main domains of psychology which are there. And today we are going to specifically focus on social psychology. So I would need all of you to be a little interactive. You can use the chat box if you're not comfortable with using the voice feature. You can use that, and it is going to be a fun class. I am going to pause a little questions here and there, and you can answer. It will help you in revising whatever you have done in the subject till now, and it would also help you in attempting the questions which are there, right? And there are going to be a little tips and tricks that you can actually take from here, and you can use them while appearing for any of the entrances that you are going to give. Okay then, so let us begin with today's class. Social psychology. So social psychology, we know social psychology is the study when we see how someone's presence or how a group's presence impacts the person's feeling, thoughts and behavior. Now the presence does not really even need to be there, right? At times we have this implied or imaginary presence in our mind. For example, when we are taking any kind of decision, or when our parents are taking any kind of decision, they have this mind na, log kya kahenge, char log kya kahenge. So actually there is no one who is looking at you or there is no one who is present while taking that decision, but still their implied presence still affects the person's feeling, thoughts and behavior that they are going to undertake. So we study different theories, different experiments which has been there in social psychology, and they all deep down come down to this: how their feeling, how their thoughts and how their behavior are affected. So in social psychology, there was this first experiment which was conducted. It was the first sports experiment also, which was conducted by Norman Triplett in the year 1898. What did he do? He actually wanted to see how bike racers compete. Have you seen any race, someone who is running in a race or something of that sort? What happens? There are few people who perform very well in the presence of other people, but there are few people who just back off a little, who are not that confident, or who are feeling a little anxious, right, while performing in front of others. So he actually noticed that there was this phenomena named as social facilitation which was happening, which is that the racers, he studied on the bicycle racers who were there. The racers actually performed better in front of an audience than they practiced in their whatever sessions were there. So social facilitation is what? It is when people start performing better, or when the performance of a person actually gets better because of the presence of other people. So this was the experiment conducted by Norman Triplett. You can also be asked what was the first social psychology experiment. It is by Norman Triplett in the year 1898 on social facilitation. Later on, this topic, social facilitation, was undertook by who? Robert Zajonc. So Robert Zajonc in the year 1965 explained this whole pattern of social facilitation and why social facilitation happens. So he said that initially there are people who are present, so there is presence of others, which will lead to the heightened arousal. For example, when you have to perform, or if you have been a performer, or maybe when you have to give a speech, or you have to speak in front of your whole class, we start getting our hearts start getting pumping a little quicker, we start getting sweaty and all, right? We have, like, our arousal starts to heighten a little. Now there are two things which will happen here. Firstly, we will try to perform which is better for us. So there can be two responses which can be seen in people. So there are two kind of people here. One who have mastery over the subject and others who do not have mastery. Okay? So what do you think? Those who are master of their art, those who have been practicing a lot, or those who have taken years and years of practice or years and years of training, they are master of their craft. So their performance will enhance. Okay? And those who do not have the mastery over the craft that they are going to do, their performance is depleted or their performance is impaired. So at that time when other people are present, we have to showcase some kind of dominant responses or some kind of desired responses, and those people who have mastery, their performance will increase, and those who do not have mastery, their performance is decreased. Okay, Aradhya has raised her hand. Aradhya, do you have a query? So we were discussing about the facilitation theory which is given by Robert Zajonc. What did he say? That presence of other people will heighten the arousal, and here evaluative apprehension will be there. We will evaluate ourselves if we are master of the craft or if we are not, if we have mastery over whatever we have performed or not, and we will perform or we will have to give the dominant responses, or we will have to give the performance which is expected out of us. So if I am a master, my performance will increase. If I am not, then my performance is decreased. Now we will think that okay, the opposite can it also happens, it is not sure, log alag bhi karte hain. But remember, whenever you are asked a question in terms of social psychology, always relate it with a theory and then answer. Don't put your personal opinions there. Okay? So there can be times when social facilitation might happen even when the person is not a master of their craft. But you need to remember that we read a theory about it and compare it or relate it with a theory and then answer. Right? There is another phenomena which happens which is just opposite to the social facilitation. Social facilitation is what? Our performance is getting better when others are present. But there is another phenomena which is just opposite to it, which is known as social loafing, which means that whenever there is a group which is present, we lower our efforts. So there were few experiments which were conducted in this behalf. So there were people who were made to stand in front of a shop and they had to clap. Okay? So when there were when there were 2 or 3 people who were there, what did they do? They were clapping with all their might. They were putting all their efforts to clap. But when there were more people who were added on, okay, for example, initially there were 3 people, then there are 5 people. So ऐसे होता है ना group में भी. Then for example there is a group of 6 or 7 people who are doing a group experiment or group project. So what would they do? There would be few people who would be putting in effort, but there would be few people who would just not do anything. That is social loafing. Social loafing is when there is a big group, we lower our efforts. We do not put as much efforts as we would have when the group would have been smaller or if we would have been alone. Okay, that is social loafing. Social loafing means that our performance or our effort have lessened because of the presence of other people. Okay, then another main theory which can be asked. Pro-social behavior. Has anyone ever heard here what is pro-social behavior or helping behavior? Has anybody? Okay. So social behavior or helping behavior. There was this case of Kitty Genovese. Okay, so Kitty Genovese was actually attacked in front of her whole building, and there were a lot of people who were present while she was getting attacked, but still nobody actually took effort to help her. Okay, but so this case actually was the propounding case where there were two people, Darley and Latane, wanted to see why people did not help her. Why was there an absence of the pro-social behavior? Why was there absence of the intention to help? So they gave different phenomena, different reasoning for the same, and they also talked about the decision stage that a person goes through, the different decision stages that a person goes through while deciding to help the other person. Okay, so we learn about those stages. So the first stage would be what? The first stage would be to notice an event. For example, here what they did. There is an old man. I am giving you an example. I am not getting a lot into depth or in any topic because it is a revision or a quick class. We will not be able to cover a lot of topics like that. So, for example, here what is happening? There is a person, an old man who is there, who needs help on the street. So there is a person or a student, or there are a lot of students who are passing by. So they might not even notice that there is a person who needs help. Maybe because they were already in a hurry. Maybe they already had a class to attend, etc. So the first step is to notice the event. The first step is to notice that there is something which is going on. Okay. After the person has noticed that there is an event which is going on, they need to interpret that event as an emergency. We evaluate it, right? What happens? Like, for example, you see that there are two people who are fighting and you think that, okay, it's their personal matter, it's not an emergency, I don't need to get into it. So you would not interpret that particular event as an emergency, then you would not help. So what will happen? If I have noticed the event, I would move on to the next stage of helping. If not, then there would be no helping or no pro-social behavior. Similar, if I have interpreted that event as an emergency, then I would move on to the next stage. Otherwise not, then there would be no helping behavior which will be happening. The third stage is to assume the responsibility. Okay, so we know, we have seen an event, we think that it is really like it is an urgency and we need to get into it and we need to help the person who is there. But still, I think I'm not responsible. I don't have any responsibility to play here. And why this happens? It happens because of the diffusion of responsibility. Why would diffusion of responsibility happen? For example, there is a site of accident, for example, and there are maybe 20 to 30 people who are standing there. There would be a diffusion of responsibility. I would think that the other persons or other people who are standing there will help the person, right? So the responsibility which was there or which should have been there, the responsibility has diffused, or that responsibility has been divided into all the people. So for example, the responsibility was 1. So if there are 20 people who are present, now it has been divided into 1 by 20th, which is not a lot of responsibility that a person thinks. It has been divided, it has been diffused. So the person might not help. Okay? Yes, Tia?
Is it due to bystander apathy, the diffusion of responsibility?
Yes. It is bystander apathy.
Because we are thinking that others will help. That's why we are not taking any initiative towards it.
Exactly. जो भी ये डिफ्यूजन ऑफ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी और लैक ऑफ कॉम्पिटेंस, वट एवर वी आर लुकिंग एट राइट नाउ, even that whole Kitty Genovese case, that was the case which led on to the studying of bystander effect. Bystander is nothing but the people who are looking or who are standing here and there when there is something which is happening. That's bystander, right? So herein there is diffusion of responsibility, and later on Darley and Latane actually went ahead and called it bystander apathy or bystander effect. Bystander effect. Why? Because they thought that people are not as much empathetic. Like for example, if there are there is only one person who is present, so there are more chances of the person who is in an accident to get help than if there are multiple people who are present. That's why it is bystander apathy, because it is not kind, it is not actually socially desirable, and it is antisocial also in nature, right? So the person has to assume the responsibility, and there is another phenomena which can happen here, which can be known as diffusion of responsibility. So if the person assumes the responsibility, they will move on to the next stage. If not, then there would be no helping behavior, right? So what would be the other stage? The next stage or the fourth stage would be to decide how to help. I know it is an emergency, I know I am responsible, I should help the other person. I will see how can I help them. For example, there is a car which is there, okay, and that car's tire is punctured, okay, I don't even know how to fix the puncture, I don't even know what to do. So in this stage, the competence of the person will actually matter a lot. If the person lacks the competence, if the person thinks ki I don't have these skills or like that are desired or that are needed to help the other person, I might not actually help because my help would be of no use. So we will evaluate our competence here, and then if we have the competency, if we have the skills to help the other person, we will move on to the last stage, which is providing help. Okay? But there is one another thing which happens here, okay, which is analysis or analyzing cost and benefits. Okay? We will also see, for example, you see there are a lot of notices or pamphlets which are there ki please help us find this person, you will be rewarded heavily and whatnot. So in that way the person might also want to help because they will be benefited. They would analyze the rewards that are there, but there are also some cost of helping also. For example, there is a person who had their car punctured. I also know how to help, but I have a job interview that I have to go to. So my cost will exceed the benefits. So here, while analyzing it, we would also want to analyze, or we would also want to see this one thing, that our cost should never exceed benefits. Okay? From this particular area, you can be asked a lot of queries. Like you can be asked ki, why, like for example, the presence of more people decreases the chance of getting help. What is this phenomena called? It is diffusion of responsibility. Then you might also be asked ki, like about bystander apathy. You can also be asked which was the case which led to the development of the studies of pro-social behavior. That was the Kitty Genovese's case. I think it was in March 1958. Okay. So we have learned about Darley and Latane's different decision stage of helping and how that affects us. Okay. Now there can be other reasons also why we help or why we would want to help the other person. The first reason can be negative state relief model. What is it? For example, if I'm looking at someone who is in an accident, it is creating a negative feeling in me. I am feeling sympathetic towards that particular person and I want to relieve that negative state which is experienced by me. Okay? We can also help because of the empathy joy hypothesis. Empathy joy hypothesis is what? When we help the other person or when we indulge in any kind of altruistic behavior, then there is a joy that we experience. So we might also help the person because of that. Okay? And at last there can be other, personal benefit reason, whatever, which can be there. Okay? For example, you will get an award if you help the person. Okay? So we evaluate or we help the other person because of different reasons. We might help it just to relieve our negative state. That would be sympathy. Then we have a empathy joy response. Empathy joy hypothesis, where we are helping the other person only because it will elicit feelings of happiness or feelings of joy in us. Then there is a difference between the pro-social behavior and altruism or altruism. Okay? Pro-social behavior and altruism. What is pro-social behavior? Pro-social behavior is a normal helping behavior, but in pro-social behavior there are few things or there are few features or there are few restrictions which are there. Like we read about it, like I would see if my cost should not exceed my benefits. I should also have the competency and all of those things. But altruism is a true helping behavior. In altruism you will help the person even when there is no benefit and even when you have a high cost of helping the other person. Okay? So we have three things. We have a helping behavior, normal behavior. Then we have pro-social behavior, where we analyze the cost, effect, the benefits that can be there. And in altruism, we help the person even if we are not benefited or even if there is a lot of cost or the costs are exceeding the rewards. So that was about the pro-social behavior. If you guys have any query in it, please ask. Then we would move ahead to the next question, next things. You can give a thumbs up if it's clear to you guys. Okay, Tia.
Yes. In pro-social behavior, it simply means helping. So whether we are helping or not are the teachers of pro-social behavior.
Can you please repeat your question?
I'm saying the pro-social behavior is normal helping others, like a feeling of being a help to others. But whether we are helping or not is the part of pro-social behavior.
Look, pro-social behavior is an action that you are indulging into. Okay? It is not your thinking or whatever. Altruism is more related to the moral aspect of us. But pro-social behavior is an action. For example, if there is a person who did not notice an event, so they did not indulge into the pro-social behavior. Pro-social behavior are all the actions which are intended towards helping the other person. Whereas altruism is a moral aspect. Altruism can be because of I have a motive, because I think I need to make this society a better place. So pro-social and altruism are different. Maybe they might seem synonymous to you or they might look synonymous, but still they are very different, because pro-social behavior are actions intended to help the person. We might have expectation, we might analyze our cost and benefits, and then we might get into that pro-social behavior. Then we might decide to showcase that particular action. But while showcasing altruism, there are morality, there are principles which are there in that particular person. There are feelings of joy which are associated. There are feelings of a motive which are associated. Even if you see that there are people who are indulged into altruistic practices, they might sacrifice a lot of time, they might have a lot of cost which is there, maybe feeding the people who are hungry. They cannot give you any reward, they cannot help you in any other way, but still you would go and help them because you have motive, you want to help the other person, or you want the other person to be fed well, right? So pro-social behavior is the action aspect, and maybe you might believe ki okay, the other might think that I am a nice person or something. That is also cost benefit analysis, that if you see on social media today that people are going ahead and helping people and recording all their videos and whatever, it might also be one of the cause that people want to showcase to the society that okay, look, I am such a good person. It is also a benefit, it is also something that they have behind, right? So
altruism is not a part of pro-social behavior. These are two different things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we read about pro-social behavior, altruism. There can be few questions which might be asked. If there in question there is action which is written, always answer pro-social behavior. If there are moral, motive, principle which are given, then it is a altruism. Okay, you might be asked that actions taken for helping the other person, then it would always be pro-social behavior. If there is a motive, then it is a altruism. It is altruism. Then we also have kinship selection while helping people. I'm not getting a lot into depth of the kinship selection, but just giving you an example. For example, we are given these kind of options, that if there is your if there are two people who are drowning, one is this, one is that, who would you help? So we would help the person who is related to us. So kinship selection hoti hai hamesha. We will choose to help who are people who are related to us rather than the people who are strangers to us. Okay, so kinship selection is also a part of the helping behavior, and it also influences the helping behavior. Okay, now I would want to discuss attitude and different models which are related to attitudes. If there is anyone who has any query, please ask, then we would move ahead with learning what are attitudes and what are the different models related to it. Okay, moving ahead with attitudes. Now, what is attitude? Attitude is the opinion or feelings that I have towards any person, any event or any object. Okay, attitude is not that ki array isme bahut attitude. No, it's not that. These are the opinions, these are the feelings, these are the perceptions I have of the other objects, other people or other events which are there. It has ABC component, it has an affective component which is an emotional component, how we actually feel about that other person. It has a behavioral component, how we behave with the other person or how we behave towards that other object. And it also has a cognitive aspect, is what perception or what perception do we have of the object or what perception do we have of the person. Okay, so in this there are various models which have been there and we are going to discuss the 4 main models which are relevant. The first model that we are going to discuss is Bem's self-perception model. What is Bem's self-perception model? In this model, what do? We think that our behavior influences our attitude, and we will use our behaviors to interpret what kind of attitude do we have towards that other person. For example, I have been like whenever I go out, I always eat ice cream all the time. Okay, so I will say that I really like ice cream. So I judged my attitude on the basis of the behavior that I was showcasing towards that other object, towards that other person or event. So for example, I think whenever there is an art event, okay, I always go and attend and I always have fun and everything. So I will evaluate my attitude on the basis of this behavior, and I will say, what? I think I really like art. I think I like going to the art festivals and all. Okay? So our behavior influences, or our behavior determines our attitude. Okay? Traditionally if we talk with each other, we will say our attitude will determine our behavior, right? We will say what we think, what we feel, all these components would be important there, right? We will feel that whatever emotions that I have towards that other person. For example, I don't like someone, so I would not feel good around them, maybe, or maybe I will behave very weirdly with them, or maybe I will think, they are such a bad person, right? So the traditional approach was what? The traditional approach was that our attitude was influencing our behavior. But according to Darlin Bem, according to his self-perception model, our behaviors influences our attitude, and that is the first model. You can also be asked about it. You can also be asked according to Darlin Bem, what happens, or maybe you can be given different options ki attitude determine behavior, behavior determines attitude, or whatever. So Darlin Bem's approach was different than that of traditional approach, and Darlin Bem said what? Darlin Bem said that our behavior determines our attitude. Simple, very very easy. Okay? Moving ahead to the next model of attitude, which is balance theory, which was given by Fritz Heather. बैलेंस थ्योरी को हम पॉक्स मॉडल भी बोलते हैं. There are different triangles which are given. So P, O and X. So P is the person, O is the object, and X is the other person who is involved. है ना? So what do we say? We say that we want to balance everything. We think that there should be an harmony which should be there in terms of our interpersonal relationship. So for example, it's me, it's my other friend, and this is something. So for example, this is an ice cream, this is my friend, and this is me. Okay? So I like my friend, which is a positive thing. Okay? Then my friend likes ice cream. So in order to make it balanced, I would say what? Okay, I like my friend likes ice cream, so I should also like ice cream in order for it to be balanced. Okay? Then we can have unbalanced figures also. How? For example, same question, P, O and X. So there is me, there is my friend, and there is this ice cream. So I am saying that I like my friend and my friend does not like ice cream, but I like ice cream a lot. So it would create an imbalance. So what do we think? We think if we are connected to people, if we have some interpersonal relationship, there should be harmony. We should have specific relationship, or we should have something like what happens when we are all like dating someone, or when we are with our family. We have a lot of fights in regard to the opinions that we have, right? For example, there is someone who thinks that violence is totally incorrect and it should not be there, but there is someone in your family, or maybe or your peers, who thinks violence is okay, it's fine. You would have an imbalance, right? You would not share a very good relationship with them, or your relationship, even though it's really good, it might get impacted because of this particular attitude that they have towards this particular belief, right? So we believe that if we have our interpersonal relationship, there should be a harmony which should be there in terms of the thoughts, in terms of the emotions, and in terms of the social relationship that we share. It can also be, okay, now let us change the example a little. It can also be some other person or some other classmate that we have. होता है ना ऐसे, like we observe this, like for example there is a person in class that I like but my friend does not like, so we would have a little tension between us ki okay I like her and I don't like her, right? So that's there, and we try to create a balance, we try to create like something. And it's not that here and they are not saying that we are trying to resolve the unbalance, they are saying that the social relationships can exist or they can coexist both without any tension and complication. Okay? So that was about the second model, balance theory, proposed by Fritz Heider, which is also known as POX model. We have balance and unbalance, and there are different triads which are created in order to see if we are in a balance or if we are in harmony or if we are not. Okay? If you have any query, then you might ask, then we would move ahead to the third model that we have.
So, if we have imbalance, then it means that our social relationship is not good with others.
Not always. Look, the next model that we are going to study, they say that we should try to resolve this unbalance, but Heider did not said anything like that. He just said that there are two things, there is a balance and there is an imbalance. If both of us like something, then we are agreeing on something, that is a balance. If we both dislike something, it can be opposite to it also, na? It can be negative also.
But it's not sure if there is an imbalance that can cause a disruption in the social relationship.
No, he has not specified on any of it. The next model that we are going to do, he has specified on it. And look, वही social psychology में ये बहुत ज़्यादा होता है that we start to put in our own personal beliefs है. So that is why we should refrain from that. जितना theory में दिया बस उतना ही हम consider करेंगे कि उसने बोला harmony होती है तो balance होता है, वरना unbalance होता है. इसने resolution ये सब कुछ नहीं बोला, ठीक है? बस he said that we want or we desire that there should be some harmony in terms of the thought, emotion or belief that we have. That's it. ठीक है? अब जो नेक्स्ट मॉडल है या जो नेक्स्ट पर्सन है, ही हैज टॉक्ड अबाउट इट. ठीक है? तो अब अगर ऐसा कोई क्वेश्चन आ जाए कि वी शुड सॉल्व इट और व्हाट वी शुड डू, देन वी वुड रेफर टू दिस थ्योरी. ठीक है? सो दिस थ्योरी, द नेक्स्ट मॉडल दैट वी आर गोइंग टू डू वाज गिवन बाय लियोन फेस्टिंगर in the year 1957, and this is also known as the cognitive dissonance theory. ठीक है? Cognitive dissonance theory. What is cognitive dissonance theory? That we would have some dissonance with our cognition. For example, our own cognition. ठीक है? यहाँ पे वी आर नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट अदर पीपल कि दूसरे लोग क्या सोचते हैं, हम क्या सोचते हैं. नो, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट अस, only and only us. Initially, when we started to look at the various components of attitude, we talked about three components. We talked about affective, we talked about behavioral, and we talked about cognitive, right? So he said what? He said that our cognition, our perception should be in alignment with our behavior. For example, if I don't like someone, then I should not maybe talk to them, or maybe I should not go to their party or whatever. ठीक है? So, for example, what do we say? कि there is someone who smokes. ठीक है? This is their behavior, but their cognition is that they think smoking is really bad. It is in dissonance. They do not match with each other. Our cognitions are not consistent with each other. So we want to keep our beliefs, our attitude and our values in harmony or in consistency with our actions. Okay, so what we will do, we will try to change or modify our cognitions. Okay, so for example, if here there is any conflict which is there between the attitude and behavior of the person, we will try to reduce that thing. Either we will change our behavior or we will change our attitude. Okay, for example, there is someone who believes that smoking is such a bad thing, but they are still smoking. Okay, so they would think, oh, it's just one life, we all just live for what, people who smoke also have same life expectancy as that of other people. So what they have done here, they have modified their attitude to reduce the inconsistency or to reduce the dissonance. Okay, so here the main component is consistency between attitude and behavior, and whenever we come across any inconsistency or even if there is any conflict which is there between our attitude and behavior, we try to modify that particular attitude. Okay, now there is one experiment which is related to this particular cognitive dissonance theory. There are a lot of questions which are asked from this theory, conceptual questions also, and questions which are like you would be maybe given a statement and then you would have to answer. Let us first see this particular experiment and then we would like learn about what kind of questions which can be asked. So the people were asked to experiment. Okay, people were given a boring task that they had to perform. Okay, they made two groups with 10 participants each, wherein the one group was given $20 to do that particular boring task, and the other group was just given $1 to do that same boring task, and they were asked to tell others that the task was not boring. Okay, so we are clear with the experimental paradigm. There is a boring task that the person had to do, and they later had to tell other people that the task was not boring. Okay, so there were two groups, each with 10 participants. One had $20. One was given $20 to tell other people that the task was not boring, and others were getting only $1. Okay, now what do you think will happen? Will the people from the first group tell other people that the task was boring, or will the people from the second group tell the other people that the task was not boring? What will happen?
I think the people who are getting $20 will have less inconsistency between their attitude and behavior, so they will definitely tell others that the task was not boring, because they will think that they are getting $20 for giving a false statement.
Okay. Anyone else who would want to contribute? Okay, actually the opposite of it happened. The people who actually got $20 went ahead and told other people that the task was extremely boring and I just did it for the money. But these people, they were experiencing a lot of conflict between their attitude and behavior. Here, these people from the first group were actually able to justify their behavior. So herein what was happening here, minimum justification effect was happening. that they said, oh, I just did it for money, the task was extremely boring but I was getting paid well, so I did it. Okay? But here they did not even had any kind of justification, because of which they were still feeling that conflict between their attitude and behavior. Because attitude is what? That the task is boring, and behavior is what? I still did the task. So what did the people from the second group did? They went ahead and told the other people, no, the task was not that boring. Okay? So here in the first group, minimum justification effect happened, due to which there was no dissonance. People were actually able to rectify, or they were actually able to justify the actions that they were getting involved in. But in the second group, there was no justification which was there, because of which they modified their behavior. So in the second group,
But in the first group, they were getting money. Is that not enough?
no, they were like, here there was no conflict. Now they had an attitude. Okay? They had an attitude. Sorry, I don't know what's. Yeah. So in the first group, they had an attitude. What was the attitude? That the task is boring. And what was the behavior that they were doing? They were doing this task, and they had to tell people that the task was not boring. So there is a conflict. In the first group also there is a conflict. But they got enough money, or they got large rewards. Okay? So what will happen? They are now able to justify their behavior. So they will not change their attitude. What are we doing in cognitive dissonance theory? We are modifying our attitudes, right? If there is any dissonance. But they had a justification. क्या होता है बहुत बारी? For example, basic example देते हैं. There is a class test that you underwent. ठीक है? तो आपने पढ़ाई नहीं करी थी. So what was the attitude? कि no study. ठीक है? And what is the behavior? You still went ahead and gave the test. Now, for example, you got 100 out of 100 on that test. Will you regret not studying? No, no. Because you are now able to justify, Arey, even without studying, I got 100 out of 100. What is the need of studying? Even though both the attitude and behavior were in conflict with each other. But now you have a justification for believing in that attitude. So now your attitude is more stern, and you would be like, the task, Arey, I did not even study and got this. So similarly, the people from the first group were like, Arey, I just did it for money. It was not that, like, the task was really, really boring, but I was getting high rewards, so I just did it. But the people from the second group are who? The people from the second group are the people जिन्होंने पढ़ाई भी नहीं करी, ठीक है, और उनके टेस्ट में मार्क्स भी 0 आए हैं अब. तो अब तो उनके पास कोई जस्टिफिकेशन ही नहीं है देने के लिए मम्मी पापा को. हम टेस्ट में भी तो ये करते हैं कि फॉर एग्जांपल हम बोल देते हैं कि अरे आप ही हमें शादी में लेके गए थे, दैट्स व्हाई वी वर नॉट एबल टू स्टडी. तो इवन दो वी गॉट 0 मार्क्स, इवन दो वी डिड नॉट स्टडीड आवरसेल्फ, इवन दो हमारी तैयारी नहीं थी, स्टिल वी गेव अ जस्टिफिकेशन टू आवर पेरेंट्स, और हमारा एटीट्यूड चेंज नहीं हुआ स्टडी के टूवर्ड्स. ठीक है? तो जस्टिफिकेशन एक्चुअली हेल्प्स अ लॉट, and because of the justification we will still continue with our attitude. But still we do not have any justification, we will do what? We will modify our attitude. So from the next test I will do what? I will be very, very devoted towards study. I will study day and night to get good marks. Okay? So that is the experiment. If you guys have any queries in the experiment till now, please do ask, and then we would move ahead.
Ma'am, could you possibly explain the second part of the example where cognitive dissonance is happening?
Okay, let me add another slide and then we would understand it on a fresh page. So, experiment. experiment is there. There is first group, there is second group. We are clear with the first group now. $20 है and there is minimum justification effect. Now people who belong to the second group, what is happening with them? What is their attitude? That the task is boring. What is their behavior? Still doing the task and telling others that task is not boring. Now people from the second group just got $1. Is it enough money? Is it enough money that they can use as a justification? Even if they will, even if they will go and tell the other person I was getting $1, still people would be like, "Arey, why would you even do it for $1? It's not enough money." So they did not have any justification to give. So there was a conflict between attitude and behavior, so they had to modify their attitude. So later on they went ahead and told other people and they changed their attitude. They said that later on वाला बता रही हूँ मैं, ठीक है? So later on they went ahead and said that, oh, the task was not that boring, it was okay. ठीक है? I hope I was able to answer your question. If you still have any doubt, please ask.
Clear now. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, then now moving ahead to the last model of attitude which can be asked, or attitude change which can be asked, which is elaboration, likelihood model. Elaboration likelihood model was given by Petty and Cassiopo. Okay. What did they do? They said that if we have a strong attitude towards a particular person or a particular behavior, it can be changed in two ways. There is a central route and there is a peripheral route. Now what is the central route? When I have to persuade someone to change their attitude, there can be two routes that I can use. Central route में I will use the main things. What are the main things? For example, there is this pen. Okay. There is this pen that I want you to buy. So I will tell you the main features of the pen now. I will tell you that okay, this pen is really sturdy, or you will have good handwriting. I will start off by telling the main aspects. I will start off by telling you the main things that actually matter. ठीक है? तो central route में features are explained. We will also explain the benefits that a person will have if they will change their attitude. For example, there is a person who is not buying that pen and I want to convince them, or I want to persuade them that okay, please buy this pen, it is such a good pen. So I will tell them benefits, features, etc. Okay? But what is the peripheral route? Peripheral route is that the salesman was very, very handsome and we got inspired and we were like, okay, let's buy the pen. So peripheral route. So the attitudes changed because of central route will be sustained. If I have changed my attitude because of the features, because of the benefits, because of the actual qualities which are there in that particular maybe pen or that particular, like for example, there is a person, okay, and I did not initially like that particular person, but then that particular person actually proved proved me wrong, they actually behaved very nicely, or maybe there was someone who I really trusted, or maybe their actions were of nice things. ठीक है, तो that was a central root की I focused on the main features, main benefits which will happen if I change my attitude. So that attitude will sustain, that change will sustain. But if I have just bought the pen because I was like okay, the person who was telling about it or the person who was selling it was handsome, so my attitude towards that pen will not change. Okay, I might not even use that pen later, maybe I might not even like that much. I just bought it for that particular situation, I just got ahead with it, I just agreed to it or agreed to buying it because of that particular situation that I was in. So there are two kind of roots that we get involved into while changing any or while being persuaded to change our attitudes. There is a central root, there is a peripheral root. The attitudes which are changed due to the central root will sustain for a longer period of time, but the attitudes which were changed because of the peripheral root or because of the extra things which are there, they will not sustain for a long period of time. We are not getting a lot into depth of all the central root features, all the peripheral root features. It's enough. You would do like whatever questions will be asked from this particular area only majorly, but you need to identify कि central root, there might be some options which might be given to you like in your entrances exam कि okay, the feature of this particular product or the maybe the attributes of that particular person is a central root to persuasion, or they will be used in peripheral root to persuasion. So you need to identify it now कि okay, central root में ज़्यादा main चीज़ें आती है, features आते हैं, but peripheral root में हमारे extra चीज़ें आती हैं. ठीक है, so it is clearly simple. If you still have any doubt, please ask, and then we would move ahead. If you guys have understood, you can give a thumbs up, and then we would move ahead. Okay, now moving ahead to the next topic. Okay, it has actually been an hour that we have been studying. If you guys would like to take a 5-minute break, please take a 5-minute break, and then we would begin with attribution. Would you like a break? Okay then, take the break. We will meet again at 6-8. ठीक है.